I know you're aware that over at the White House, they were questioned about the Taliban and whether this is a terrorist group. They refused to label it as such. Do you think the Taliban is a terrorist group?
From a military perspective, we consider the Taliban in Afghanistan as an armed insurgency. Now, as I understand it, the State Department has not designated them as a foreign terrorist organization. Yes, they use terror tactics and have used them and will probably continue to use them, but they're not designated as such.
Right, but the Commander-in-Chief, George W. Bush, back in 2002, did designate them as a terrorist group. So do you follow what the State Department says, or do you follow what the Commander-in-Chief says?
The State Department is the agency in charge of designating these organizations as such.
As foreign terrorist organizations, right? FTOs. But the President, in July of 2002, President Bush issued an executive order that specially designated global terrorists and included the Taliban as a terrorist group. So I don't understand why the Pentagon wouldn't come out and say, yeah, they're terrorists.
Megyn, let's not stand on too much of the rhetoric here. They're an armed insurgency. They remain a dangerous group. We're aware of that. And that's why we got troops in Afghanistan right now.
But that is a good point, because the bottom line is, should we be negotiating with them on prisoner swaps? Because we don't do that with terrorist groups. Should we be doing that with the Taliban?
Well, in this case, Sergeant Bergdahl was being held in prisoner of war-like status, and we were negotiating with an armed insurgent group that was recognized in that regard to get Sergeant Bergdahl back. And I'll tell you another thing, we absolutely stand by that decision to get Sergeant Bergdahl back.
If they had been a terrorist group, would it have been okay to do that?
We do not negotiate with terrorist organizations.
See, so that's why the distinction actually does matter. And so you're asking the American people to say this was okay because the State Department hadn't labeled them a foreign terrorist organization, even though the President of the United States and the Commander-in-Chief did label them a terrorist organization, and that designation stands.
And from a military perspective, we consider them an armed insurgency. We could go round and around about the history here of how
but don't you see the aggravation from people who say, wait, I thought we didn't negotiate with terrorist groups, and now they're trying to say, oh, it's an armed insurgency, and look at that foreign terrorist designation isn't there by state. And the American people say, come on, you did it. You negotiated with terrorists. Just admit it. Tell us why it was worth it.
We've been talking about them being an armed insurgency from the very beginning, even before Sergeant Bergdahl was involved. We believe it's really important, and it sends a strong message to our troops and our families that we're not going to leave a soldier behind.